What time is it?
Okay, we have some fabulous live music later on, but right now, here's the kind I prefer.
Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Living and breathing, man. I'm good.
It's been a crazy sports weekend, including today, and we cover all the Cali teams, even the ones we don't like. You know, I got to show love to some of the teams from Cali that I really don't care about, but hey, we're covering Cali for everybody here. So, man, let's start with the NBA, Nick. Clippers today. What are your thoughts?
It's interesting because when you have a 21-point lead, you would expect the team to go ahead and really just take a commanding 3-1 lead, right? And so you saw the lack of discipline. You saw towards the stretch, you saw a lot of guys not taking the same type of attitude that they had in the beginning of the game, and they let it linger, and they let Dallas come back. I don't know if it was overconfidence. I don't know if they were not, setting the right picks, moving the ball around the way they need to move it around. But Dallas has nothing to lose in this series. I mean, if they lose, we expect them to lose, right? So they have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Yeah.
And so you have a guy like Luka Doncic who's been playing pretty well, and then he's on the bench for a period of time. You got Porzingis on the bench for a period of time. You would think, okay, now it's time for us to capitalize. There's no reason in the world that game should have gone to overtime, and there's no reason that when Carlisle is going to switch on that last play. If there's a game-winning shot in hand, Carlisle is the king of what I call sneaky switches, right? So he knows how to adjust properly. He will know how to go about switching off if he needs to, almost in football terms, calling an audible. And I don't understand, if you're Doc Rivers and with the experience that you have, how do you not anticipate what Carlisle is going to do? Why in the hell would you put Reggie Jackson on Luka Doncic? Why wouldn't you have Kawhi come off the switch or have Paul George come off the switch and just throw a hand in his face? There was so much spacing between Reggie Jackson, who was off kilter, and Luka Doncic, who had the shot straight up. He would have knocked it down if he was 5 feet even further back. That's how squared up he was. So there's no reason not to have a hand in his face. If my best defender is Kawhi Leonard, I'm following Luka like gum on a shoe, right? I'm not letting him out of my sight. That's going to be my defensive assignment. For those 3.7 seconds that are left, Luka is my defensive assignment. If I'm the claw, then I'm going to make sure that the claw is in his grill. And he didn't do that. And that's everybody wants to blame Paul George. Yeah, Paul George deserved enough amounts of blame, but also Doc Rivers deserves the blame for not being able to switch up the way he needed to switch up when Carlisle called that last play and allowed Luka to hit the game winner. So to me, now you got a real series. Now, it's a pivotal, as they say, pivotal game 5, because whoever wins game 5 is going to win this series. So if you're the Los Angeles Clippers, you better get your ass off your shoulders and get in gear, because if you don't, it's going to be a failure of a season.
Does a loss like this demoralize for the next game, or do you think they brush it off?
I think they're disappointed. I mean, when we talked to Paul George after the game and talking to Doc Rivers after the game, they're definitely disappointed. And Doc talked about having mental lapses throughout the game that cost them opportunities to put the game away. And I think they're going to definitely regroup. Of course, it's a tough loss, but they'll shake it off. They're professionals. Some of these guys are veterans, been in the game for a while. So I think they'll be able to get up for the next game plan. Okay, look, we got to win game 5. We got to win game 6. First and foremost, we got to win game 5. So I think they're focused on one game at a time. If I know Doc the way I know him, they're going to be focused on cutting down on the mistakes that they made in this game and making sure they advance in game 5. So it's going to be a great game Tuesday night at 6 p.m.
Jake, do you have a prediction for the next game?
I think the Clippers come back and win game 5. Here's the deal. I follow this team like Nick does, and at the risk of losing my paychecks that are signed by Mr. Balmer, I will say this. A lot of the players failed it in this game. They thought they had it in the bag, They figured, we up, 20-some points. Let's make this happen. But as long as Luka's out there, they always have a chance. Everybody's going to blame Paul George. But let's face facts. The man couldn't hit the side of a barn if you spotted him like the barn right in front of him. He's playing terrible this game. And I think he's hurt more than he's leading on. I think that shoulder's really bad. But, he's a competitor. He wants to win. There's already that stigma going on. But I think the Clippers bounce back from this, to kind of piggyback off what Nick was saying. I don't think it's demoralizing. I've been around this team all year, and I've seen them be resilient. And it bothers them. They're upset, obviously, but they're not to bounce back. These guys are very close with one another. The chemistry is off the charts. And this loss it's a bad one, but it's not one that's going to demoralize them.
But there is that other side of the coin. Dallas is motivated by this. Like Nick said, it's going to be a hell of a game on Tuesday because Dallas has got this under their wings, and they're like, you know what? We could take these guys.
I mean, they got some confidence. The Mavericks bench isn't as deep as the Clippers bench. There's way more depth. And the Clippers, they have people that have been there before. The Mavericks, they got a lot of sophomore guys playing. Not disrespecting them whatsoever because they balled the hell out tonight. But the Clippers are just too deep, man. I can't see them. I can see them going 7, but I can't see the Clippers losing this series to Dallas.
Yeah, I can't see it either. I think, but also, too, the Clippers are going to have Pat Beverly come back. He's a difference maker. When you go in that starting rotation, regardless if he scores 9 points or 19 points, the fact that his defensive presence and him being a chihuahua, so to speak, of nipping at the opponent's heels and getting on your nerves and being that gnat that's constantly in your face, that's the kind of guy that you want to set the tone defensively. And I think that's why Luka has gotten away with so many different things and so many different looks, is because you don't have a guy like Pat Beverly in his face, talking his ear off. I know what happened between Trez and Luka, which to me is totally overblown. It was not that big of a deal. It was not racist, as the soft-spoken Jay Williams likes to call it. It's basketball, okay? Is Luka not a white dude? Okay. Last I checked, he was. Okay. So where is the disrespect? Where is the racial insensitivity that allegedly has gone on there? I don't think Trez should have ever had to apologize. I think Trez should have been like, look, welcome to the NBA, youngster. This is how we get out. If you don't like it, then sit your crybaby self on the bench. If not, this is how we play in the NBA. And it's that simple. So I think when you see stuff like that, it's like, come on, man, when do we get so soft when we watch a basketball game?
Let's be honest. If that game's played at Staples Center or American Airlines Arena, you ain't going to pick that up. Nobody's even caring. But because, they're in that little arena there in Orlando, you can pick up everything. Everybody's looking for a story because the focus is there. So it's a non-issue, man. People that have been balling on the court from Venice all the way to the cages in New York City, man. Everybody talks like that. And I don't know one white dude that's ever been offended that balls out and gets called that, because they get called that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if he said the other word that's offensive to what you say about white people, that's a different story. I'm not going to repeat it, but y'all, you get my point. If he said something like that, I'd be the first one to say, hey, man, Trez, you were wrong for that, bro. Because of the shoe on the other foot, when they said something racially offensive, you wouldn't like that. But that wasn't the case, man. It was like, look, it's ball. They talk trash. That's what you do, period, point blank.
Let's complaining about it are the same people that are mad that Black Lives Matter is on the court anyway. They're just trying to stir the pot, man.
All right, let's move on to the Lakers. We've got a series with Portland going on. Lakers are up in the series now. Nick, what are your thoughts on the games?
Well, first before I go any further, I want to say happy 42nd birthday to one of the GOATs of basketball himself, Kobe Bean Bryant.
Mamba, the greatest to me.
The Black Mamba. And it's interesting because they will be wearing jerseys to commemorate the legacy of the Black Mamba during this playoff run. And so the Lakers, I mean, they were fantastic. The last 2 games, they were fantastic. LeBron finally came back around. LeBron James became playoff LeBron like we anticipated. I was wondering where the hell LeBron was because, damn it, besides game 1 when they took the L, he had been on the milk carton the last couple of games. So I was wondering when playoff LeBron was going to show up, and he played phenomenal basketball. Him, Anthony Davis, got a lot of guys involved. I mean, Bron was unstoppable. He was the Incredible Hulk when it came, especially down in the post. Portland had no answer, even though Carmelo Anthony had a great stretch in that third quarter. Every shot was damn near getting knocked down by him, and Bron had no answer the couple of times that he defended him, if you remember, in that third quarter. So I think, I said the Lakers would win in 6. I think, Portland might have one more game left in them where they can get a W and make it interesting. It wouldn't surprise me if they won on Monday night by a close margin, and I'm talking about the Trailblazers.
Wait, you think they're going to beat them on Kobe night?
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. Wow. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying maybe, because I mean, listen, do we expect
better get their asses up for Kobe? I mean, you're wearing his jersey.
you should be getting up just for the fact that it's an actual series with a
that's true. But Kobe, that's an extra, you know?
I would think
That's
so.
an extra.
But here's the thing. Who's going to be the third scorer? That question is yet to be answered this entire season. And that's the problem that we're having. We know what LeBron and AD can do, but who's going to be the third option? Because the road only gets tougher. I mean, even once you beat the Trailblazers, you got to face the Houston Rockets, who have been playing some phenomenal ball as of late. And actually, excuse me, the expression, excuse the language, been playing some actual defense from Mike No D'Antoni. So when you got a team like that that's ready for a team like the Lakers, who was the number one team, and I always said before, when you're the number one in anything, the bullseye continues to get bigger and bigger on your back. There are going to be teams that'll knock you down and will play you harder than the number 2 or number 3 team, just because they want to have a strike on them about knocking you off the mountaintop. And that's what they want to do. Portland is trying it, but I don't think they'll be successful. I think the Lakers, if they continue to have good spacing, good ball movement, that's the one thing I noticed in the last game. They had really good ball movement. The spacing was there. You saw LeBron get aggressive and take it to the rack, not settle for just jumpers, but he got the second chance opportunities. Even when Dwight Howard had missed the shot, he was right there under the basket, getting the rebound, putting it back up for the second chance opportunities. And that's what you're going to need. You're going to need Anthony Davis, who was a point guard in a big man's body, so to speak, to knock down the jumpers, to take it down the court, and to be able to facilitate properly when you're looking for a guy like Kuzma on the wing, or you're looking for, if you're in that rotation when you have Deion Waiters out there or somebody of that caliber, to knock down shots.
Huh?
Who, the Hennessy brother?
Nah, just being that difference maker,
KCP is ridiculously inconsistent.
Yeah.
I mean, one game he has 2 points one game and then 16 the next.
Not reliable. And Nick is right. Like, when you got LeBron's better when he's attacking the basket, not when he's, fading away trying to do jumpers. He is not Kobe Bryant, so he needs to stop that. And I really think if the Lakers win this next game, which they should, because they should be up from Kobe, they're going to win the series.
Yes.
I 100% believe that. If the Lakers win the next game, the series is over.
Well, yeah, of course.
And I'll tell you why also. Here's the thing. LeBron's going to get his. AD's going to get his. But Pope finally gets 13 points. But where's Kuzma? Kuzma has 7 points on 2 for 6 shooting. That's not going to get it done. He's all into the Hollywood hype. He's hyping himself up. He's talking about, on any other team I could be a starter. Well, on this team, we need you. We ain't worried about no other team. And what's he doing? He's consistently inconsistent. And I don't even get started on Green. We all know his story. Yeah, he had 8 points last game, 3 of 8 shooting, but the man is not doing what he's supposed to do. The Lakers, they're not a running team. We all know that. They're a half-court team, and they're not going to win playing half-court basketball the whole game. They're going to have to go out and run, but you got, like, Deion Waiters didn't even play. DNP last game. And what was Hennessy? 0 points. They picked them up for that reason.
But, I love their defense in the last quarter on that last game. Their defense was just wow.
But they need to keep – that needs to be consistent, especially with this team. They're a running team, and they're a one-man show. All they have is Dame. So throw bodies on him whole game. Tire him out. Double team him.
But here's the thing with Dame, though. That's not a one-man team. It's the illusion that it is. But if Dame gets going, you saw what happened with Carmelo Anthony in that third quarter when he went on that stretch. You saw what happened in the latter part of the second quarter with Carmelo. So I think when Dame gets involved and he gets his shots up, you got C.J. McCollum, you have Carmelo Anthony. Even Nurk is using his body more. I noticed even trying to use his body more in the post was something that they've tried a little bit differently. This is a team that's saying, hey, man, we're not ready to go home yet. Like, we're still in this series. We may be down a game. We're still very much in this series. And that's how Terry Stotts and company thinks that, hey, we still are in this series. We're not down 3-1 on the verge of going home. We're not on the ropes yet.
I think if the Lakers win this next game, they have all the momentum, 100%.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're beating one of the hottest teams in the NBA, man. The scariest eighth seed that's probably ever existed, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Especially with Dame there just shooting his lights out. I'm like, man, does this guy ever miss?
He's on.
He's got that. He's like one of the Steph Currys, man. You just he throws it up and boom, it just goes in. And it's like, damn, man. And then, you see the Lakers on the other side, they'll shoot a 3, and one will go in, one will bounce out, go in, bounce out, and there's not that,
They need to drive more to the hoop. keep
Consistency.
relying on that three-pointer that's not falling for.
Awesome, guys. Let's talk baseball if we can. I know that Jake followed that closely, probably more than I do. I'm a Dodgers guy. If it's not the Dodgers, I just change the channel.
Worked for the team for 2 seasons, so that was like a dream come true rolling with Vince Scully and traveling with the team. So, like, the Dodgers got a little more piece of my heart than so, you know. But, yeah, I mean, these Dodgers are on fire, man. And here's the thing. They're clicking on all cylinders right now, and there's one name that just keeps coming up. Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts keeps just doing the damn thing. And Belly's finally playing well. He's finally hitting dingers, you know. So this team, the chemistry is fun to watch. They're a fun team to watch, and they don't fear anybody. Finally got some good pitching going on. And I really don't see anybody out west that can contend with the Dodgers at all. That's just me, though. That's some homerism there, but they're just too damn good. They're just
They
too
just
damn
destroyed the Rockies today. Man, I was watching the game, and it was like, home run. I was like, raise my head. Home run. Raise my head again.
Yeah.
Home run. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like last season, they relied on the home run a lot, and the pitching didn't come through as much. But now this year, the home runs are hitting again, and the pitching's starting to do good.
Well, they're having a balance. They seem to find. I think they finally found their stride. I mean, I know we're at the halfway mark with the 30th game in a 60-game season, and then they have obviously they're going on a roll for an extended period of time. So it's good to get those home wins, as many as you can. I mean, Kershaw pitched well. You see Walker Buehler pitched right behind him well. You know, back-to-back 11 strikeouts in each of their starts in the last couple of games. So I thought that was pivotal as well as far as setting the mental tone of where they want to go for the next 30 games or so. I say or so because I'm talking about playoffs. But I think when you look at what Mookie Betts has done, I think ever since Dave Roberts moved him to the leadoff spot, you've seen an increase in production in Mookie Betts. You've seen what Cody Bellinger has done. You see Corey Seager actually getting involved. We see Kike Hernandez hit a 3-run shot, his third of the season, having a 3-run shot this on Sunday. So I think there's a lot of positives. And I think Dave Roberts is starting to figure out the rotation. I mean, I know we don't have David Price for this season, which is well understandable when it comes to his health and the family and safety of his family. So I understand that. But, hey, we got David Price coming next year. So that's going to be an added incentive to what the Dodgers already have this season. So I like the way the rotation. Jack Peterson still is a question mark to me. I think if you could try to trade him for something valuable, it doesn't have to be something right now, but maybe something down the line, future prospect, maybe somebody in the middle relief of the rotation, maybe somebody at the back end of the rotation as a closer to go along with Kenley Jansen. So I think if you get something valuable for him, I would push the button. But I love what they're doing. I love even AJ Pollock is starting to come along, which is surprising as hell.
Right?
Because that dude has a handicap placard just plastered on his car. Seems like he can't get off the injured list for a long period of time to save his life. But I'm glad to see him getting back into the fold. You know, Kershaw seems to finally starting to find his stride after he had a great start. And then the second game was terrible, was all get out. And then the third game, he looked back to the Kershaw that we used to having, even though it was on the road. Kershaw may be much better on the road this season than at home. And if that's the case, then, hey, that's great because you're going to have some road games where you're going to need to be closing out certain series in the playoffs. If you got a guy that's more confident on the road and you got to close it out, what better guy to put on the mound than Kershaw? But I think Walker Buehler has really matured. Having guys like that, man, I think the Dodgers are in prime position. I love what Dave Roberts is. But early on, remember, he left a lot of lefties and a lot of guys in scoring position on base. They could not connect for anything. In those early series against the Giants, even though they won the series with the Diamondbacks, but they still had the same issues with the Diamondbacks on the road. It seemed like they cleaned those mistakes up over the course of time. And, you know, Dave Roberts finally figured it out. And hopefully they can continue that momentum as they move forward because it's only going to get tougher from here. But I do think the Rockies are a team that you need to look out for as well because if they ever get hot like they were in the beginning of the season, it's going to be a neck-and-neck race because of the short amount of games that are left in the season.
Now, I have no doubts that the Dodgers are going to make the playoffs. Does Kershaw finally break that curse this year? I mean, good Lord, how long is that going to hang over his head, man? You know?
I don't know because if you have to face the Yankees, and I know the Yankees are kind of banged up right now, but eventually they're going to get healthy. And we saw what they were when they were healthy and at full strength. LeMay.
But not even just the World Series. I'm just talking about playing against other National League teams.
No, I'm not concerned. I think because of the way the season is structured, I think it's to his advantage because the less games he has to pitch, the more he can reserve his energy level when it comes to those playoff games. So I think this season actually plays to his advantage. He may get over it. My only concern is when they go to the World Series because if they have to face the Yankees, that's going to be the issue for them. And I don't know how they get over that hump because, like I said, when we see those guys at full strength, they're a totally different team. That's the team that if I'm the Dodgers, I'm looking at like, okay, how once we get past the NL, how do we get past these guys? And if I'm Kershaw, mentally, how do I get past the Yankees when it comes to the World Series? But as of right now, as far as the National League is concerned, I think they'll be fine. I think Kershaw will be fine. He'll get over the hump.
I agree with Nick. I think, Kershaw will be just fine. And they'll probably rest him a little bit before, playoffs start, a hamstring issue or tightness in the back, just so he can get a little rest. But it's the mental aspect of what he's gone through his whole career in the postseason. It's on record that he's choked big games and big and on some of the biggest stages. But all it takes is like a small string of games to get over that hump.
Yeah.
And I think, this may be the year for him. He doesn't have to worry about being the top dog all the time on the mound. He has help now. And I think if he gets over that mental hump, just that little mental hump, he could be a whole different player. Because as soon as he gets rocked early, his confidence is shook. And that's what we've all seen as Dodger fans and people, just covering the team.
Yeah.
We get that out of him. So I think once he breaks that, he's going to get the runs to support him. That's no problem. He's going to get the runs. But like Nick said, you get a team like Murderers Row Yankees. Can he handle that? He needs to get over that hump. Once he gets over that hump, man, the whole world's going to be different for that man.
Funny story. I was watching him pitch against the Cardinals in the playoff series one time, and I was with Exhibit and B-Real. We were all watching the game, and we were just watching the Cardinals just bomb the shit out of him, like pitch after pitch, boom, 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 and we were just like so dismayed.
It's frustrating to watch as a fan.
Yeah.
But eventually, if you're, as good as, Hall of Fame caliber, you got to get over that hump, and I think eventually he will. I really do. I believe him.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know, but maybe I'm myopic, but I'm a believer.
So I know there'll probably be fans from other cities watching this from, the Bay, San Diego, and all that. And I know they're hearing all this Dodger talk right now. So do we have anything for these guys with the Giants, A's, Padres that you know of?
The Padres are on fire, man. 7 straight wins. How many? Five games with grand slams?
Slam Diego.
Unheard of. San Diego's like, they're in a whole other league, but their pitching is garbage. They have to hit grand slams in order to win some games. But it's fun to watch. But they're not going to be able to sustain that energy at all. But, good baseball, but and they got hitters, but they damn sure don't have the pitching to sustain it, man.
Yeah, I agree with Jake. I think I call them Slam Diego because that's the way they've been playing as of late, and they've been very entertaining to watch. Beyond they giving that stadium something else, and the people that watch that team something else to admire besides that great stadium. So I don't think it's going to last long. I think, as I said before, I think they overpaid for Machado. I think they overpaid for a lot of a couple other guys, but they had to do something to get the star power driven at the time before the pandemic hit, obviously, to get the butts in the seats. So they had to do something. When I look at the Giants, I see the Giants, the Giants have actually given the Dodgers fits, especially in that opening series. But the Dodgers have bounced back, and I think they go up there, I believe, this coming week. Yeah, so, that's going to be interesting to see how that fits. But the Giants I think the Giants are still in rebuild mode. I think they're, Dave Gapler, he's still kind of figuring out some things. And, obviously that's what he's supposed to do. He's still a young manager. He's getting his feet wet, so to speak, becoming a major league manager. And I think, he's going to have some success. Ultimately, as they continue to build that team in San Francisco, it'll be a real rivalry again in a couple of years when you have, a good team in San Francisco facing a good team like the Dodgers, and it actually be way more interesting than what it is right now. Every team goes through it. Every team goes through a rebuild, and I think that's what they've been doing. When you look at the Oakland A's, I mean, they're just that team that you don't know what to expect. They have dominated the Angels this season thus far. They've actually surprised some series, this year. And so the A's are a tricky bunch because you don't know which team is going to truly show up. I mean, they have some talent on that ball club. I'm not going to sit up and act like it's a bunch of scrubs on that ball club, because it's not. There's some real deal talent. Just hasn't been fully developed yet. I think once they figure out their rhythm and really develop that talent, the A's, I mean, think about it. The A's are stuck in the playoff, a couple of times in the wild card. So, listen, I think the A's, if they can figure out their stadium situation and be able to get them a brand new state-of-the-art stadium that's in the 21st century, I think they can attract more eyeballs, because that stadium is a piece of crap. I've been to it. It's a piece of crap, literally. And it's a shame that the city of Oakland, the fans only are left with the A's and that putrid of a stadium. I think the fans deserve better. I think the city of Oakland deserves better, but you got these greedy politicians that stand in the way as usual. And I think the players on the Oakland A's deserve better. So, absolutely. I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll find out what happens. But
the A's are benefiting from a bad division. I mean, Astros are 15-13, and they continue to lose, and all their star players to bang on trash cans and get the codes and everything. They can't ball out no more. Then you got Seattle, Texas, and the Angels. So they're benefiting from a bad division, but they are balling out. I'm not going to totally discredit them, but they are in a division where they could easily win as long as they keep playing.
I agree. And I think with the Angels, and you look at the Angels, obviously you think about Mike Trout, you think about Shohei Ohtani, who's been having a lot of difficulty, especially on the mound, and I don't think he's fully healthy yet. I think he still has to deal with the getting back. I don't think it was the best choice to put him back so soon, because it is a shortened season. Anthony Rendon has been looked well. I'm gonna tell you something. Brian Goodwin, that brother right there, has been knocking in some runs. Been playing some solid defense on the bases, and then also too Joe Adele. When they called up Joe Adele, I think that was a shot in the arm that they may have needed for a stretch of time. So I think the problem with the Angels, and I've said this numerous times, and I'll say it again, when you look at the Los Angeles Angels and you look at the talent, I give Artie credit for putting that LA feature on the team, even though they're in Orange County. Because when you see the name LA, if you're back east or Midwest, you're like, oh, I'm going to LA, right? So I give him credit for the marketing standpoint. But when you have your hand in the cookie jar way too much, and it affects the production of what you're trying to quote unquote build, you're hustling backwards. You're being counterproductive. And that's the problem. When you look at Mike Trout, I still don't know how Mike Trout signed that big deal.
That biggest, I don't know, they must have pictures of it.
No, you know what it is though with Mike? I'm gonna tell you something. Mike loves the Angels fan base. He loves the kids, he loves the adults, he loves being in that environment. I've never seen Mike Trout turn down an autograph. Yeah, I mean, he's the best hitter of our generation. But when you don't surround him with the proper help, I mean, you lowball Garrett Cole. You had an opportunity to get Garrett Cole. I mean, hell, the Dodgers offered him Garrett Cole more money than you did, and you lowballed him like as if you don't need pitching, as if your Achilles heel for the last 3 to 4 years has been pitching. Then you don't get that man any help. You go through 4 or 5 different general managers since the time you took over as owner. That's not a good look on you. But every time you want to make the decision, you lost Torrey Hunter and you got Josh Hamilton, who turned out to be an alcoholic and relapsed. You could have got Torrey Hunter for less money and more production. Yeah. And Torrey didn't want to leave. When you talk to Torrey, he'll tell you he didn't really want to leave. And I'm telling you, I've been in that locker room. Torrey was the voice of that locker room. He had you laughing. He had you thinking. He was very personable, whether they won or lost. He was that guy. When you had Jared Weaver, the years when you had Jared Weaver in there and those boys, he was the voice of that locker room. And Artie wanted to play. Artie didn't want to pay him his money. And he thought he was going to get more bang with his butt because Josh Hamilton was the big guy on campus in Texas. And he wanted to take a stab and gut Texas, which Texas was more than willing to give up Josh Hamilton because of the problems that he presented there. To me, Artie has been the reason why the Angels, in large part, have not been successful. If he stayed out the way, signed the checks, and allow his general managers, which I believe Billy Epler is an incredible baseball mind. He came from great pedigree from the Yankees organization. dealing with the GM with the Yankees. So I think Billy Epler is an incredible baseball mind. Give him the checkbook and let him do what he needs to do. Let him build this team. Stay out of his way. Unlike how you stayed out of the ways of Jerry DePoto and many other, and Bill Stoneman, Tony Regan, all these general managers that are good baseball minds, and you ran them off. And the guys that suffer are the players on the field. So yeah, you got a great manager in Joe Madden. I love Joe Madden. I think Joe Madden is a phenomenal manager. Excellent baseball mind. I think it was time for Mike Scioscia to go. As much as I like Mike Scioscia, and I think he's incredible, it was time for him to go.
Overstayed as well.
Exactly. Then you bring in a scrub who didn't know what the hell he was doing. He didn't know which end was up. And then Brad Ausmus. And then you finally bring in somebody who knows what he's doing. And Joe Madden, who's a World Series champion manager, been in your Angels organization, knows the game of baseball, loves the game of baseball. And you gave him very little work with outside of Mike Trout. What is he supposed to do? So I don't see any future playoff berths for the Angels, which is really a sad situation and a travesty for Mike Trout, because I'm going to tell you something, and I could be wrong, but in the next couple of years, if the Angels ain't turning things around, don't be surprised if Mike Trout's people start leaking information into the press where I'm saying, like, hey, we hearing word that Mike may want to leave Anaheim. Mike Trout's not going to say it.
Of course.
But maybe somebody around him may be saying something to that degree or alluding to the fact of Mike may be interested in looking elsewhere on a championship caliber team. Because to me, Mike Trout is too great. We often talk about Devin Booker being too big for Phoenix. Mike Trout is too great for the Angels.
And he's not going to tolerate losing that many consecutive seasons.
Hell no.
He's a competitor. So there's no way. Every kid, their dream when they make the major leagues, obviously, is to win the World Series. And this team is forever rebuilding. You know, they're not going to put money in it in the way, like you were saying. Artie Moreno's not really letting people do baseball things, you know. So as long as they keep losing like this, I agree. He's not long for Anaheim because he's not going to tolerate it. Because after a while, money becomes relative. You want to win. You want to do something different. Money can only carry you for so far before you're like, you know what, I'm good with this, and you bounce. So yeah, they better do something quick.
Nick, why don't you take us into Footballville, man? I know you are you're really close to covering the Chargers and the Rams. What's going on in that world?
Well, I mean, obviously training camp, the Rams for the first time visited SoFi, completed SoFi Stadium, ran a scrimmage. They ran about 154 plays, I believe, for the scrimmage on Saturday night. A lot of players got used to the turf, used to the facilities, used to the lighting. One thing that got on Sean McVay's nerves was the fake crowd noise that kept being pumped in there. He was very agitated about that and said, look, this is not real. This is not what a real crowd does. And I asked him, I said, well, how did it feel? What does it have? Is it an advantage to go in this early to kind of figure those things out and see what works for the defense, the offense, the special teams, the coaching staff, things of that nature? He was like, yeah, you know, it's an advantage because you get to work out the kinks, so to speak, as far as figuring out, hey, guys have a routine. Where's my locker? Where am I going to be warming up? Which sideline am I going to be on since I'm the home team? You know, little things like that we kind of just overlook if you're the average fan. Those things matter to those guys. You know, how the turf feels, what size cleats am I going to wear? You know, with this style of turf that we're on now. So it's the little things like that they got a chance to kind of look at, kind of get a feel from. The Oculus, you know, getting used to the Oculus being inside of SoFi. But there have been a lot of, you know, they've had a really good week of training camp practice. This is their final week of training camp coming up this week. Guys that have, you know, really been impressive to the coaching staff, especially Sean McVay, have been rookie wide receiver Van Jefferson, who's I said was phenomenal, was a steal in the draft. The Rams got in the second round. To me, everybody looked at Jerry Jeudy, which they should. Jerry Judy's a phenomenal wide receiver, excellent route runner. But I also look at Van Jefferson as a slightly better footwork than Jerry Jeudy, but both are excellent route runners. I think if Van Jefferson continues, as Sean McVay has said, he continues to pick up the offense really quickly, especially for a guy that's had no rookie camp, no OTAs because of the pandemic, none of the traditional things that you would get as a rookie coming in. simply studying the playbook, simply being in touch with the coaches and some of the players. That is a huge step for a rookie to come right into the NFL and understand the offense as being disseminated to him. So it speaks volumes about him, his work ethic, and his mentality as having a high football IQ. You look at Cam Akers, who's versatile in that running back court. Darrell Henderson suffered a light hamstring injury, as they're calling it, in the scrimmage on Saturday night. He's listed as day-to-day, but McVay is hopeful that he'll come back before the Dallas game on September the 13th at SoFi. But they have they have a nice running back core. They have Malcolm Brown, 6-year vet, Cam Akers, who's versatile, get between the tackles, very patient runner, can also throw the ball because he played quarterback in high school. You have a wide receiver core because now the offense has become different with the exit of Todd Gurley. Now the offense is centered on Jared Goff. And the one thing that Jared Goff has worked on is something that a lot of us have been criticizing him on, is being able to get in and out of the pocket and his footwork and his ability to throw off the back foot or being able to throw off the side and still be accurate. And that's some of the things that Jared Goff had worked on in the offseason as far as his footwork, working with the new offensive coordinator and Kevin O'Connell, and making sure that they develop a rapport and understand what is expected of each other so they can perform to maximize the opportunities on the field. And so when you have a good wide receiver core like, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, guys like that, where you can spread the ball around you, especially on the offensive line, you got Havelstein, who's grown on that line. You still got Andrew Whitworth on that left side that can continue to be that veteran presence to give Goff some time to get the ball off. You also have Cam Akers. You have, Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson who can also block to buy some time. So I think, the Rams are going to be a different type of team offensively. It's going to take some time to get used to it, but I think they'll be successful if they can stay healthy. Defensive side of the ball, obviously you got Jalen Ramsey, you got Aaron Donald, the best defensive player in the game as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a damn what anybody says. So you got John Johnson III in that secondary. You have Taylor Rapp, who's suffered an injury in camp, but he's looking forward to coming back. They're just, progressing him day to day as well. So you're going to have a nice little secondary coming into this season. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare in the NFC West with the 49ers and the Seahawks and the newly improved Arizona Cardinals.
How are them Chargers looking?
Same. I mean, look, man, from a defensive perspective, let me start. Gus Bradley's done a phenomenal job with that defense. I mean, you got a healthy Derwin James coming back, as we know. He got injured last season, kind of cut his season short, which was really disappointing. But you got Derwin James back now. You got Chris Harris Jr. that you signed in free agency from the Denver Broncos, 9-year veteran. You have Nazir Adderley, who's also going to be on the opposite side. You got Rayshawn Jenkins, who's going to be a safety. You're going to have, Casey Hayward, obviously. So that secondary is going to be locked and loaded. When I look at the interior defense, you got, guys, like I said, I love, obviously, you got Joey Bosa, who just signed a big-time deal, well worth the money that was invested in that man.
Yes.
You got Melvin Ingram, who's having some issues with his contract, but he seems to be back in camp. He took a couple of days off, but Joey Bosa, stood right by him, said, "Hey, man, he's got to do the best he can for his family." I thought that was very, very important, just to show that solidarity, not just on the field but off the field. I think that carries on the field when you're looking a guy to help you protect. I like the kid out of Oklahoma. He is a beast. Love him. On the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be a little different this year. Obviously, they drafted Justin Herbert. It's going to take him a while before he sees any real action, but he's been pretty impressive according to head coach Anthony Lynn. He's had some struggles last couple of days this week. The running back situation between Austin Eckler, you got Justin Jackson, you got Joshua Kelly out of UCLA. And to me, what I've seen this past week out of Joshua Kelly, he can definitely almost be that number 2 if Justin Jackson is not careful. So it's going to be some really heated competition. We know where Austin Eckler lies. And the thing about Anthony Lynn is he said, look, it's going to be a running back by committee. Whatever we see from the defense, if whoever has the hot hand, I'm not pulling them out because I have to put this guy in. If whoever has the hot hand and they're giving us the go and they're allowing us to move the chains, we're going to stay with the hot hand until that hot hand cools off. And then we'll move accordingly. So I love what I'm seeing out of Joshua Kelly. He's picking up the offense. And when I asked Anthony Lynn this week about Joshua Kelly, I mean, his face just lit up like a Christmas tree because he was so enthusiastic about the potential that Joshua Kelly can go to. And again, for the fact that these rookies have not had rookie camp or OTAs or what they normally would have, for them to be performing at a really solid level says a lot about them, in addition to the coaching staff that's helped them along. So when I look at, Tyrod Taylor, who's going to be the starting quarterback, a little bit more mobile than Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers threw a lot of interceptions last year, 23 interceptions, 20 touchdowns, I believe. Tyrod Taylor will not throw you out of a game. That's one thing about Tyrod Taylor. He knows how to protect the football. That's one thing Anthony Lynn loves about him. He knows how to protect the football. Worst case scenario, he'll throw it out of bounds before he throws an interception or tries to make that, triple covered pick to Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. But when you talk about Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, that's the dynamic duo. You have those guys. Keenan has played well, especially coming out of the slot, because he can get you more yards after the catch. When you look at Mike Williams, everybody talks about the 50-50 ball, but according to Tyrod Taylor, it's more like an 80-20 ball, and 80 going in the favor of Mike Williams because he's so athletically gifted. He can jump out the gym. He may not be the best route runner, but he can jump up there and get you yards and run fast. He has the speed. Obviously, Keenan is the better route runner, but they work as a collective unit. And when you see those kind of plays, being able to extend those plays. Now, let's not forget Hunter Henry is now back in the fold. So now you have Hunter Henry as another option to be able to throw to. So you have some weapons. You have a nice offensive line. Sam Tevi's moving over from right to left. You have Mike Pouncey back healthy, the center spot, which you're going to need, especially count on him. He's going to be the cerebral assassin of that offensive line. And then you look at, like I said, the only question mark I have about this Chargers team is, God forbid if Tyrod Taylor goes down, because you're in trouble. And that's one of the reasons why I said early on in the offseason that I thought Cam Newton would be the best signee, because Cam came in there with a chip on his shoulder the size of Frito-Lay, and he's going to give you everything that he's going to give you. He's going to give you everything in the kitchen sink. And if Tyrod does go down, you have a guy who's also mobile, who's also can extend plays, and he has two tall wide receivers. And he fares well with taller wide receivers than he does shorter receivers. If you look at the statistics, that's what he's been most successful at. So you have two tall guys, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and a Hunter Henry. If Tyrod did go down, the train keeps moving. You don't miss a beat. Now there's questions because who's behind him? Easton Stick? You're not going to bring in Justin Herbert because he's not ready. Justin Herbert needs at least a year and a half before he's ready to take over that position. I think he has a very strong arm. I think he has a very high football IQ, but he's not ready to be in the starting role as a franchise quarterback right now. He's not ready for that. So you have a guy in Tyrod Taylor who does know the terrain, understands what is asked of him, but then after him, who do you have?
Do any of you guys keep your eyes on the 49ers?
Seldom. I don't keep my eyes really on the 49ers. I seldom do unless they're playing the Rams that week. I mainly cover the Rams and the Chargers, so that's why I stay in my lane, as your man Puffy Knight likes to say.
You, Jake?
Look, man, the only Niners I get is from my mom. She's a hardcore Niners fan. I've never liked the Niners, but I know I have to be objective. No, they cost me some money in the Super Bowl last year, so I ain't too happy about that.
Yikes.
Well, 49ers fans out there, don't be too mad at us for this, but it is what it is.
Hey, they can hate me. I wear that hat.
Gentlemen, I really thank you for your time, man. You guys really knocked it out of the park. You guys really know your stuff, and I'm really proud to have you guys on my team. We'll be doing this, more often. So, people look out for our sports updates, man. So, anyway, thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.
What time is it? Okay, we have some fabulous live music later on, but right now, here's the kind I prefer.